be your MC this morning. Today, we have a very interesting session on the 4 pillars on holistic living with Lou Coutinho. But before that, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a food and travel writer, and I've authored a travel book called A Wanderer's Revolution. I also run an award-winning blog by the name of Spoons and Sneakers, in which I pen down my food stories and travel experiences. I've also been a survivor myself and have been associated with the Forum for Breast Cancer Protection for more than 10 years. The Forum for Breast Cancer centers around cancer awareness and programs focusing on mental, spiritual, and emotional well-being like this one. On the 11th of October also, we will be having another session with BK Sister Shivani, and for that, the link is given right below. Starting this session today, we have Dr. Vinita Kapoor. So Dr. Vinita Kapoor is the senior radiologist at Colonel Punts Imaging Center and at Fortis La Femme. She's also Rotarian of the Rotary Club of India South. I request Dr. Vinita for the welcome address.
Good morning, everybody. As Gautam Buddha said, to keep the body in good health is a duty. Otherwise, one shall not be able to keep our mind strong. On behalf of the Forum for Breast Cancer Protection, it is my proud privilege to welcome again the man of the hour, the guru of health and well-being, Lou Coutinho. I extend my gratitude to Shagun Chaudhary, a great philanthropist and a supporter of our organization. To Supreme Court lawyer Sadhna Ramachandran, who is known for her forthright views and is herself a breast cancer survivor. To Uma Mahendra Prasad, whose husband, known as the Raja of Patna, has provided us great support. And to each and every one of you who has logged in to be with us today. Before I hand over to the Master of Ceremonies, let me say in the words of Mahatma Gandhi, it is health that is real wealth and not pieces of gold and silver. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vinita, for the warm welcome. We have Dr. Mrs. Ramesh Sareen, who is a senior consultant with Indraprastha Apollo Hospital, Delhi, for the last 25 years. She carries with her more than 40 years of cancer practice with specialty in breast. Her dedication, empathy, and compassion for cancer patients is unparalleled. She has initiated and encouraged support group meetings wherein all cancer patients are supported with a holistic approach. I now request Dr. Ramesh Sareen to introduce the forum and the program.
Good morning everybody. Good morning all the attendees and colleagues. I'm just going to say a few words about the NGO that we have. The Forum for Breast Cancer Protection was instituted over 15 years ago by a group of concerned radiologists, oncologists, and oncosurgeons who were first points of contact for any patient who had a breast lump. The group included Colonel C.S. Pant, Dr. Vanita Kapoor, Dr. Bhavna Awasthi, and myself, among others. We were repeatedly faced by the distressing situation of women ignoring their symptoms to the extent that they came with discharging wounds, they came with unbearable pain, and they also had sometimes maggots. And if you understand maggots, ये मक्खी के बच्चे होते हैं और मक्खी कभी might have sat on their wounds and gave eggs, and they had these maggots crawling in their wounds. The situation was so unbearable, and this situation did not happen in people who were not educated. This happened in people who were highly educated, who were very high social class and had high professional careers. With this, but why did they come to us so late? I have memories of some of these patients etched in my mind, which I can't forget. But to tell you, one of the patients who was a professor of English in Delhi University, the husband was a big managing director of a corporate sector. And she came to us when her breast literally was a stony heart, like it was a stone. Even a person, even a child, if that put the hand on her breast, would have said, "Mom, this is not normal." I just prodded her gently and asked her, "Why did you come so late?" She said, "Madam, I have been a very good daughter. I've been a very good mother. And I've been a very obedient wife. I've done nothing wrong in my life. So why should I get breast cancer?" And breast cancer doesn't happen to younger people. The breast cancer, um, I am embarrassed to talk about it, because if I come to you, you'll take my breast out, and how will I walk in front of my servants, my colleagues, and my profession? And also that this cannot happen to me, and that there is no cure for cancer. You know, the treatment is worse than a death. So I thought, it's giving me no problem, I'll sit over it. So this is how she sat. After all the treatment she got for about 1 to 2 years, she died. And the husband came to me and said, "Madam, I am devastated, and I am pauper. I have no wife. My children are astray, and my money is all gone." So it's not that when you come in early, you live longer, but you also spend very little money, or you absolutely spend couple of lakhs. And if you are advanced stage, you spend tens of lakhs of rupees with no life in front. With these stories, we thought we have to pool our resources together and find time among our busy schedule to spread the message and to dispel everything that I just told you that that patient told us. We are a small NGO with limited resources, but we are proud that everybody who works for it works voluntarily. And we are also proud that we have produced 5 groundbreaking films, and one of them is on how to do a breast examination, breast self-examination correctly and properly. And I think this is the best video that we have among all the videos that I've seen, whether it's international or national videos. Again, we conduct very regular support group meeting and awareness meetings. We used to do it personally for 25, 30 people, twice in a year, about 500 to 1,000 people. But now we've taken over to the virtual media. And this is our second meeting with Mr. Luke Coutinho. You all, if you have joined last time, you would know that Mr. Luke Coutinho gave a wonderful lecture, and he has come back on public demand. We received many requests to invite him again, and his talk today will definitely benefit all of us. Not our survivors alone, but also it will help us to learn to avoid lifestyle related diseases, and which are on rise in India. Of course, he will speak about oncology or cancer diet, but diet in a normal, healthy person. And before you all came, I was telling my story, and I thought I was healthy, but now I realize that I wasn't healthy because I wasn't taking a proper diet, I wasn't doing exercises, I wasn't sleeping better, I wasn't sleeping well. So many illnesses can be taken care of by balanced diet, by good exercise, and by a good sleep, and not to get stressed. So we're going to hear from Mr. Luke Coutinho today. He'll speak uninterruptedly for about 30 to 35 minutes, and then the questions on the chat box of the last time and this time will be assembled by our moderators, and they will be asking in few questions so that we can answer your personal queries. So to end the whole thing, I must tell you, WHO gave a definition or said what is health, and their health said it should be physical, mental, emotional health, and that is supposed to be a normal health. So I request you to sit back, relax, and rejuvenate with our session today. Over
Thank
to
you.
you, Dipali.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sari. The Forum for Breast Cancer Protection raises awareness among Indian women about the critical need for early detection, and it is an applaudable work that they do. Dr. Neeti Lekha Chhabra is a brave survivor and runs her own NGO for breast cancer awareness. I request you, Dr. Chhabra, to introduce our esteemed guest, Mr. Luke Coutinho, to our viewers today.
Thank you, Dipali. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce Luke Coutinho to you. Luke is a globally renowned holistic lifestyle coach in the field of integrative medicine and the founder of Luke Coutinho Holistic Healing Systems Private Limited. Luke's approach towards prevention and healing revolves around 4 important pillars: balanced nutrition, adequate exercise, quality sleep, and emotional detox. Luke's programs work across preventive medicine as well as cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular, and autoimmune diseases. He has also authored a range of books and has 3 bestsellers to his credit. His most recent release is a digital book with Shilpa Shetty, The Magic Immunity Pill Lifestyle, a free gift to India and the world. Luke has co-founded Reset, Holistic Living Concepts, a one-of-a-kind facility for individuals who are voyaging towards holistic well-being. Thank you, Luke, for being with us once again, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I hope all of you are doing well today. Firstly, I need to tell you why I'm speaking at this forum again and why it inspires me so much. Because without this forum, okay, why does this forum exist? You have survivors. That gives us hope. Everyone, with or without cancer, it gives us hope that this mindset, like, doctor just spoke about, which is a very limiting mindset, that when you get cancer, you have to die. When you get cancer, all of your money and assets are going to disappear. But this forum is a living example of hope for all of us, that it doesn't have to be that way. So I want you, like she rightly said today, to sit back and relax. I am going to talk about things which I want you to reflect on. By the time I'm done, you will have and realize how many tools you already have right now, which you may not be using. What I talk today is not a replacement for your doctors. It is not a replacement for your medicine. You need everything that is designed for you. What I'm talking about is the immense potential that you, me, and all of us have within us, but we fail to use it, and it doesn't cost us money. Everything I talk about today is literally inexpensive and literally free. Unfortunately, in our world today, we've learned that things which are free and things which are simple are never valued. We think it cannot get us change. It cannot bring us healing and recovery. Well, today I have to say, with my experience across the world, the most complicated diseases are put into remission, or the patient is put onto a path of recovery with the most simple ways, So, like I said, let's start off with every point I talk about today. You may make notes and you may want to reflect on this, okay? Because right now I'm telling you, there is no magic diet, okay? There is no magic diet for your disease, for cancer, for anything. There is no magic exercise. There is no magic number of hours of sleep. And there is no magic pranayama or magic asana and yoga. No, it doesn't exist. When we encompass what we require from all of these 4 verticals for our body, remember, we are all unique. Each and every one of us are unique, which is why certain protocols of medicine work on some people and they don't work on others. Certain foods suit some people and certain foods do not suit other people. Okay, so what we need to understand, can everyone hear me, please? Can you give me a thumbs up?
I can.
Okay. All right, great. So I'll continue then. Okay. So like I was saying, remember, you are unique. So the moment you stop comparing yourself with everyone around, someone healing faster than you, someone getting sicker than you, someone sadly succumbing to their disease, do not compare yourself. You are unique. Your path is different. Your body composition is different. Your healing and recovery path is going to be completely different. You are you. You have to look within, not outwards anymore. We are tired of looking outwards at other people's opinions, other people's stories. Everything that we are looking for is within us, and you know it, but we're scared to look within. Anyway, let's move straight into nutrition, the first vertical. Reflect on the statement. Every cell in your body, your bone, your tissues, your joints, your cartilage, your brain cells, every one of them are made up from the food that you eat. Every single tissue cell is made up from the food that you eat. So now it's simple to understand. If you are feeding your body the wrong food, okay, we have the wrong composition of everything that makes up this human body and your mind. And if we eat the right foods, we are creating a supportive platform for everything in your body, including the disease, whatever healing plan you're going to be on, whatever recovery plan you're going to be on. So there's no debate about the importance of diet and food. There's no debate about that, okay? We need to accept it. What you eat matters, okay? If what you eat didn't matter, after you finished breastfeeding when you were a child, your parents would have just fed you everything. But we know the first 1 or 2 years are crucial, the kind of nutrition you're given. Why? Because that's what grows you. That's what completes your gene expression. That's what completes the growth of your musculoskeletal system. So there is no debate and confusion. We're ending that today, right now. Food is important. Is it more important than anything? No, it's equally important. So is your medicine. So is the kind of chemotherapy you're getting. So is the kind of radiation. Everything is important. But there is no debate about food. Remember that, okay? You are what you eat, period. You're eating the wrong food, you get the consequences. You have to be responsible for the consequences and your decisions. You eat the right food, which doesn't have to be expensive, doesn't have to be fancy, doesn't have to be complicated. You will get the results that you require. Now let's take a step back. What is the nature of cancer and lifestyle diseases? Okay, number one, medical science, okay, categorizes cancer and most diseases today as inflammatory diseases. There's a lot to take away from that word, inflammatory disease. Inflammation is real. So step away and look at your cancer or look at your diseases from a whole different perspective. It is inflammatory in nature, which means you have excessive uncontrolled inflammation in your body. So great, that's something that we can target through your food, through your exercise, through your sleep, through your meditation, but you have to target inflammation. If you are not targeting inflammation in your treatment protocol, you are only treating the symptom and you will only get those kind of results. Remember in life, reflection point number 2, if you want different results, you need to do different things. So if 100 people are doing the same things and getting the same results, but you want different results, you want to get better, you want to get in remission, you want to survive, you want to address the root cause of your problem, you have to do different things. You can't do what everyone else is doing. Different results, different process. It's as simple as that. So the first nature of cancer, it's inflammatory, which means we have to work with inflammation. 2, there is an energy source feeding a tumor, causing the cancer to be metastatic. Where is this energy source coming from? The food that you eat. Your cancer cells are hijacking your own cells and robbing nutrition, which is why weight loss, cachexia are real things. Okay, your cells, your cancer cells are literally robbing you of nutrition. So that is why feeding your body the right way and at the right time and the right quantities are equally important. The energy source is real. We have chemo to poison in a right way. We have radiation to burn. We have surgery to remove. We have nutrition to boost immunity, reduce inflammation. We also have to consider in our protocol of cancer and disease today, how can we cut energy sources to the cells which are eventually building up as disease cells in our body. So that's another point that we have to work on. Again, all the 4 protocols I talk about and your treatment covers this. Number 3, your immunity. We know today that there is a breakdown in your immune system. That's the only way you can get cancer. Your cancer cells have become so smart that they disguise themselves with certain proteins and your own immune system cannot capture it, which means you've had a compromised immunity, compromised intelligence of your body. So we have to keep building immunity, restoring the intelligence of your body as part of your recovery protocol. It can never just be medicine symptom. It can never just be pranayama, prayer, and symptom. No, it's everything together. Okay, and the 4th point is your gene expression. We know there's a genetic connection to cancer, gene expression. We also know today that medical science is teaching us that genes can be turned on and turned off, upregulated and downregulated. Some of our lifestyles that we live today are turning on genes which should not be turned on, okay? And some of our lifestyles don't allow genes that are supposed to be turned off to be turned off because we have come in between with our poor lifestyle and we are compromising our own genetic expression, okay? So there is always a reason for everything. So a lot of people today believe that, oh, but we don't have control, Luke, over our gene expression. Of course you do. Today we have science showing us how foods can turn on the right genes and turn off the wrong genes. We know that sleep deprivation is turning on genes that cause inflammation in the body. We know that chronic stress is turning on bad genes and not allowing the good genes to turn off. So see, what I've given you are 4 points, which are low-hanging fruits, which we have within our control. Will we use it? Can we use it? How do we use it? That's what we're going to talk about today. Let's move straight into food. When it comes to the diet for cancer, it is actually way, way simpler than any other diet, be it diabetes, weight loss, or whatever. The only strict rule that I have, and I'll explain, is cut out sugar, cut out white sugar, period. Okay? Today, to prevent ourselves from falling sick, we're advising everyone, and we know the dangers of white sugar. Why will you feed a sick body white sugar? Why will you create a beautiful energy source for cancer cells? So just cut out white sugar. Come to terms with it. If you don't have diabetes, you can have jaggery, you can have stevia, you can have raw honey. You know, you will never miss sugar when you start eating the right things. Your fruits have natural sugars. They're not refined, you can have them. It can take care of any sweet craving. We have dates, we have apricots, we have so many things. Just keep white sugar out, period. There's no debate about that. Would you feed your children white sugar today in excess? No. Why will you feed a sick body? Okay, why is the world constantly harping on white sugar is poison? Because it is. So there is no debate about feeding a sick body filled with inflammation, filled with energy sources that are feeding cancer cells. Why would we feed that body white sugar? So no white sugar, period. Come to terms. When the human mind decides, it decides. It's not a struggle. It's not a struggle at all. People find it more difficult to get off coffee than white sugar, okay? Now, when it comes to milk, we live in a country. Yes, we want good protein going into a cancer patient or anyone, but we also have to understand the quality, okay? We have adulterated milk in our country. 70 to 80% of the samples of milk are adulterated. They find pus cells in it, antibiotics, estrogen, the worst things for cancer. Now, if you can get A2 milk from our Indian cow, the Gir cow, and every city has access to it, every village has access to it, I don't have a problem. If you are a patient that has a lot of mucus buildup, then you want to be off dairy for your own healing. But other than that, it's an A-class protein, a class A protein. It'll help you with your weight. It will help you with your recovery. Just get the right quantity, okay? Sometimes when you're going through treatment, you may constipate, you may get diarrhea because of the nature of the treatment you're going through. It doesn't mean you're getting sicker. It's natural. Chemotherapy wipes out a lot of your key proteins and your gut microbiome, which is the side effect of which is a side effect. You get constipation and diarrhea. You're not sicker. It's the normal process. You can manage it with your foods, your lifestyle. Your doctors will give you certain pills to help you with that, but you're not getting sicker, so don't get worried. But that's where your food comes in. With your food, you can manage a lot of these symptoms very, very easily without doing anything drastic, okay? I would prefer you use lactase, yogurt, buttermilk, chas, because that's cooling for your body. A lot of people today are intolerant to lactose. So if you're intolerant to lactose and you're going through chemo and everything, you're going to have a lot of gut issues, discomfort in your gut. So make an informed decision. Everyone's unique. If milk doesn't suit you, don't do it. Does yogurt suit you because it's lactase? Go ahead and have it. The right quality, the right time, and that's how it is. Quality, quality, quality. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people prefer to go vegan. That's your decision. Do it. Do everything that you do with intention and with understanding. Now, let's talk about the diet for cancer. It's beautiful. You can have everything else. Don't eat processed, don't eat ultra processed, don't eat things in a packet, don't eat outside food. That's common sense, okay? But now your whole grains, yes, you can have rice. You want a better rice, have brown rice, have red rice, okay? Mix it with a lentil. Like a khichdi, when you mix a dal and a rice, it becomes a complete protein. A complete protein. Excellent for your recovery, excellent for your cells, excellent for you, all the amino acids. So you can have your whole grains. You can have your jowar, you can have your bajra. There is no limit. You can have these things with lentils. You're going to get protein from your lentils and your legumes, your chana, your rajma. Make sure you soak it well. Make sure you cook it well with a little bit of hing. So it takes away the acids. It takes away the heat from your body. All of your Indian spices are superfoods. Your garam masala is a superfood. Now you control the spice. If spice doesn't suit you, don't have it. If it suits you, you can have it. Don't go over spicy because sometimes you'll have ulcers in your mouth. You'll have a metallic taste in your mouth. So balance it, balance it out. Now your vegetables. Of course, while you're going through chemotherapy, no raws. We understand that your immunity is already low. You don't want to get an infection where your doctors have to give you antibiotics and you go 10 steps back. Cook your foods, steam them, boil them, whatever it is. Okay, have your fruits, peel the skins, the ones that have thick skins like oranges. You can just peel that. You don't have to do anything more. Apples, you would like to peel it. Look after yourself. You don't want pesticides. You don't want germs and bacteria getting into your system, which is already sick, and a system where your WBCs are already compromised. That's why your doctors tell you, be very, very careful with your diet. So you can have your whole grains, which in our country are so many. You can have your legumes, your lentils, your green vegetables, your cooked vegetables, your dals. All of that makes up a beautiful diet. Cruciferous vegetables. We're talking about cabbage. We're talking about cauliflower. We're talking about radish. This is rich in something called sulforaphane, which is huge today, huge in every scientific journal for treatments of cancer and everything else. If you have thyroid, do not do it raw. Cook it well and steam it well. But every day you should have one different crucifer, which is local to our country. We are used to cooking a gobi, a cabbage, and all of these things. They're beautiful vegetables. Pair it with other vegetables. Honestly, these are the things that you have. When I said spices, you're talking about turmeric, you're talking about garlic, you're talking about ginger, you're talking about onion, everything else. Like I said, the diet is simple. You want to stay away from junk food, processed food that does not serve you any good. Once in a way, treat yourself. That's okay, absolutely fine. But 100% of your diet has to be wholesome, real food that you grew up eating, cooked at home preferably. This is the diet. Now, of course, it'll be tweaking. Someone has cancer with a kidney problem. Of course, we manage the potassiums and the sodium. So it's different. Like I said, everyone's unique, everyone's different. But I'm giving you a skeleton of how easy it is. Have fresh foods. The more fresh foods you have, the more energy you put in. Now, protein, let me warn you about that. Yes, you need protein, but do not go crazy with protein. Protein is the building block of all cells in the human body, including your cancer cells. So yes, you need protein, but don't eat it at one time. Don't have protein-rich meals. Have your small meals, but there should be protein with every meal. So you're spacing it out. You're not leaving any undigested or unbroken down protein in your body for the wrong cells to utilize. Please understand this. So have your protein, but don't go crazy over it. Space it out throughout the day. So if your doctor tells you have 60 grams of protein, you can. If you need 80 grams of protein, have it. But space it out with your meals. Don't put 40 grams of protein in one meal. Don't put 50 grams of protein in one meal. A lot of people do that. Remember, space it out throughout the day. You have your breakfast, you have snacks, you have lunch, you have snacks, you have dinner. You can have small meals because sometimes your appetite is compromised as well. So again, please do not do fad diets. Understand, let's talk about gene expression. You know what's affecting most genes today? Expression, fad diets. People are trying to go very low carb. People are trying to go very high fat. Please understand these are extremes. Okay, these are extremes. Your genes require the fundamentals. Okay, if you do not give your fundamentals to the body, you have poor gene expression. So today we know that in genetic science and in genetic nutrition, we need carbohydrates, the right quality. We need protein and we need fat, the right quality. Do not do fad diets. Do not do extreme diets when you are sick. Do not do that. Your body is looking for balance, not for extremes. I know people who have literally messed up their treatments, their healing and everything by trying to do extreme diets when they are sick. Eat your food normally. Feed according to the disease that you have. Nourish according to the disease and the side effects of your medication that you're going through. Very important. Fasting, it's therapeutic, but there's the right time to do it and the wrong time to do it. So please understand, you cannot generalize fasting and say, oh, I have cancer, I'm going to fast. There is a stage in cancer where fasting is very therapeutic. That has to be advised to you. There is a stage in the rebuilding process when you're in remission where you can use fasting therapeutically. Some people do it during chemotherapy, they're great. Some people misuse it because they watch videos that tell them, oh, fast and your cancer is going to die. Do not do that. Everyone is unique. Everyone is different. Your body needs energy when you have cancer, period. So understand that. Do not do extremes. Today, we know the parts of immunity. Our own Ayush Ministry of Health in the country has listed out foods like turmeric, ginger, garlic, our own garam masalas, which are approved foods for boosting your immunity. And that's what you should be eating every single day. When you have a normal, balanced Indian diet, the traditional way, not the modern way where 2 of your meals are Indian and 1 is pasta and all of that stuff. Traditional Indian food is well balanced already. Just don't overdo it on the carbohydrates. It has all the spices you need, the perfect protein, the perfect carbs, everything is perfectly designed. When you look at an Indian thali, the traditional way, not the modern way, it is perfectly balanced food, perfectly balanced food. So like I said, it comes down to this when it comes to nutrition. It's that simple. The complication is if there are complications. Sometimes the chemo and the radiation causes certain side effects where you would need certain concoctions of different foods. Sometimes if you're very acidic, using ajwain, jeera, soft, boiling it in water, all of these natural things are great, great remedies for you. Doesn't have to suit everyone. For most people, you're already used to it, so it works beautifully for you. Let's move into the second vertical, which is exercise. If you are sedentary, you are going to get sicker and sicker. Let me repeat that once again. If you are sedentary, you are going to get sicker and sicker. When I talk about exercise, I'm talking about movement. You don't have to join a gym. You don't have to do a 1-hour workout. Even if you do a 10-minute walk to start off with, that is great for you. We are looking for movement. Why? Every cell in the human body requires two things: oxygen from the air that we breathe and food, nutrients from the food that we eat. That is carried by your blood circulation to trillions of cells. We need blood circulation. When you're sedentary, you don't have the right amount of circulation to transfer the right amount of oxygen and the right amount of food to trillions of cells. That's why when you're lazy and you're sitting around the whole day, do you feel energetic? You feel more tired. You feel more lethargic. Less oxygen, less energy reaching your cells. So no matter what, even if you're confined to a wheelchair, there are exercises that you can do in the wheelchair with your upper body, arm raises, side raises. Even if you're bedridden, unfortunately, there are exercises that you can do in bed. If you can't do them, someone lifts your legs up 10 times, someone lifts your blood circulation is everything. Your treatment and your nutrition is useless if you do not have blood circulation. So a simple walk is beautiful. Simple walk is beautiful. Some people like to do push-ups, squats. It's up to you. Some people like to dance. That's exercise. Some people like to do yoga, beautiful exercise, and pranayama, breathing. You have to understand that oxygen and oxygenation of your cells is real when it comes to prevention and when it comes to recovery. The more oxygen you can get into your body, the better it is for your immune system and every single cell, which is why we breathe, which is why we practice pranayama. Make these parts of your lifestyle regime. It doesn't have to take you more than 30 minutes in a day. You don't have time, do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, 10 minutes in the evening. You got 30 minutes, as simple as that. But not being active is your biggest obstacle towards your healing and your biggest obstacle towards prevention. Understand one thing, reflection point number 3, the human body was never designed to be as sedentary as we are today. The world has given us comfort, beds, lounge chairs, all of that stuff. The comfort, someone sold you a product, you became a consumer, but the human body is not designed to sit for long periods of time. We are not designed to be sedentary. The more you move, the healthier you are going to be, period. So when it comes to exercise, don't under-exercise and don't over-exercise. If you over-exercise, you are creating more inflammation in your body. Okay, inflammation, cancer, inflammation, lifestyle diseases. You're creating more lactic acid. You're putting a negative stress on the body. Know your threshold. Everyone's different. 30 minutes may be good for you. You may say, hey, Luke, I can do 1 hour. Great. I've had people who have just got into remission and they start running marathons and 6 months later they have a relapse. Please understand, okay, we commend your spirit, but your body's still healing. You didn't just throw it out over there and put it under negative pressure. You can run marathons, but rebuild your body, get stronger, get your nutrition back in place, manage the side effects of the treatment you've gone through for months, and then ease yourself back into life. So don't overtrain and don't undertrain. And when you exercise, equally, you need to rest. Today, a lot of people are sick because they train, but they don't rest. So that moves us to our next vertical. That's it with exercise. That's simple. You like to dance, dance. Yoga, yoga. Pranayama. Yoga and pranayama are non-negotiable. Do it every single day. Okay, walk, dance, do some body weight exercises, whatever it is, movement. And have movement throughout the day. I like to make a simple habit for me. 10 minutes after my breakfast, lunch, or dinner, I've planned calls for half an hour. So 10 minutes after my breakfast, I have calls for half an hour. So I'm walking and taking my calls. The same thing after lunch, the same thing after dinner. So no matter where I am in the world, I get 1.5 hours of walking over and above my exercise because it is important. Exercise is important and it's not strenuous. You're walking. It's beautiful for your brain, your body, your immune system, and everything else. It's that simple. Do we need to complicate exercise anymore? Absolutely not. Does this cost you money, what I've told you so far? Absolutely not. We need discipline. We need consistency. Let's move to the next vertical. Sleep. Okay, non-negotiable, non-debatable. We know that when we sleep today, medical science has taught us about a hormone called melatonin. Melatonin is what puts us to sleep, but today it has been termed as an anti-cancer vaccine, which means melatonin has other functions related to your immunity. As we sleep, melatonin travels around your bloodstream, looking out for proliferating cells, looking out for inflammatory disorders in your body. While you sleep, there is magic that happens. While you sleep, there is healing that happens. All the healing and recovery that you're taking from your pills and your nutrition doesn't happen while you're taking it. It happens while you sleep. While you sleep, please understand, sleep is non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. The world has taught us today that to be successful, work 18 hours, sleep 4 hours. You cannot defy the laws of nature. It will catch up with you. Whether you're a billionaire, whether you're Hollywood, Bollywood, whoever you are, it will catch up with you because sleep deprivation is a law of nature. You do not defy laws of nature. If you defy the laws of nature, you pay for them with the consequences. So be responsible for every decision that you make. Now, when it comes to sleep, there's a lot more. If you are sleep deprived, you have low testosterone levels. If you have low testosterone levels, you have every issue related to a hormonal imbalance. In a woman, your estrogen levels go higher when you're sleep deprived. Is that a good thing when you have an ER positive cancer or an ovarian cancer or an endometriosis issue, anything like that? Absolutely not. You want your estrogen control. You can take all the tamoxifen in the world. You can take all the aromatase inhibitors in the world. But if you do not sleep, it is useless. Because when you sleep, your body is doing all these functions naturally for you. How do you wake up? How do you feel when you're sleep deprived? Horrible. Is that natural? It's unnatural because you did something unnatural to your body. You deprived it of sleep. Now, how do we sleep better? Okay, it's easy to talk about all of these things. Number one, okay, get into bed at the same time every day. Whether it's 9, 10, 11, whatever your time is, get into bed at the same time. Your body works in a circadian rhythm with biological clocks. Train your body. Your body should know at 10 o'clock, Luke gets into bed. 5, 6 nights, you'll be rolling around. The 7th night, you will sleep well. Everything works as a timetable. Body clocks. Your suprachiasmatic nucleus in your brain conducts your circadian rhythm, light and dark. These are real. There's no debate about it. These are real. That is why when we wake up at sunrise, we feel different. When we wake up before sunrise, we feel different. When we wake up 5 hours after sunrise, we feel horrible, lethargic, more tired. So understand sleep. Number one, get into bed at the same time every day. Number two, put your phones and your gadgets off 1 hour before bedtime. You know what disrupts melatonin the most? Your screen. The blue artificial light from your television, from your iPad, from your screen, that disrupts melatonin. So number one, your sleep's getting disrupted. Number two, your melatonin is getting disrupted. You want to use melatonin in your healing process. Let me tell you that right now. You want to use it. Some oversmart people will say, oh, let me go and pop melatonin tablets. Won't work. Won't work the way natural melatonin works. So be clear about that. Okay, put your screens off 1 hour before. What can you do in that 1 hour before bed? Read a book, talk, pray, meditate, journal. There's so many things you can do. But get your screens off 1 hour before bed. Number three, there are so many pranayamas that you can do to help you sleep. You have left nostril breathing where you cover your right nostril, and you breathe 10 to 15 times, inhale, exhale through your left nostril. You can do your normal anulom vilom. You can do normal, just simple deep breathing, or do a yoga nidra, which will put you to sleep. Do different things. Your mind has to calm down. If your mind is working, you cannot sleep. Okay, you cannot sleep. There are different processes. Sympathetic nervous system is stress. Parasympathetic is rest and digest. So you're better off digesting food and sleeping when you're in the parasympathetic nervous system, which means when you're calm. So that 1 hour before bed, disconnect. Don't think about work. Don't think about anything. It's your time, family time, couple time, whatever it is, and you will sleep like a baby. Okay, you can do chamomile tea. You can use a little bit of nutmeg powder. You can use poppy seeds, cuscus seeds. There are so many of these concoctions over there. They work for some, they don't work for some. But the idea is we should be able to sleep naturally, right? Because it's a natural process. We don't need anything to put us to sleep unless we're dependent on it. So that is sleep. Please understand, all your healing, all your growth, all your repair, everything happens when you are in a state of complete rest. You can have the best doctors in the world, the best treatment, the best nutrition, but if you are sleep deprived, I am telling you, okay, you have obstacles to your recovery and you have obstacles to your healing, okay? So that's it when it comes to sleep. Sleep is a beautiful thing. How many of you wake up after a deep night of sleep and you feel like you can take on the world? That is how we should wake up most mornings, on that cellular energy. Can you imagine what that energy is doing for your immune system? What it's doing? Your system's intelligence is getting harnessed. Every night we get deeper and deeper sleep. So it's not about 7, 8 hours of sleep. It's about the quality of your sleep. You can sleep 5 hours, deep sleep, wake up on top of the world. That was enough for you. Some people sleep 8 to 9 hours and wake up tired. They didn't sleep well. They didn't sleep deep enough. Big problem. Okay? So let's move into the fourth vertical, which is your emotional wellness. And I can go on and on about this, but please understand, when it comes to your healing, when it comes to prevention, the number one thing is your attitude. A patient can be on the best treatment with the best team of doctors and everyone, but if they have the wrong attitude, they will not get better. Healing and recovery starts in your mind. What you decide is going to be the outcome of your disease. Like I said, I love this group because there are so many survivors who have made beautiful lives. What is the difference between them and most other people who are not surviving? Everyone's getting the same treatment. Most of them are getting the same treatment. Most of them are doing everything they're supposed to. The difference is their mind. The difference is the way they think. The difference is their attitude. You can achieve, forget about disease. You can't achieve anything in life with the wrong attitude. You know that. I don't have to tell you that. You cannot achieve anything in life with the wrong attitude. You can have money, fame, fancy cars with the wrong attitude. It doesn't work. So it is so important for us now to embrace the importance of our emotional wellness. This doesn't mean you go and sit and chant for 1 hour and meditate for 2 hours. No, do it with intention. Even spirituality has become a fad today. Everyone's read books, everyone's done everything great. But are you practicing it? Are you practicing what you learn? Knowledge without action is useless. We have everyone talking about, intention, everyone talking about meditation, everyone talking about kindness, everyone talking about self-esteem, but who's practicing it? Good spirituality is learn and practice, become great. Learn and practice, become great. Just because you've read 100 books or you're chanting for 1 hour in a day is not going to make your life any different unless you are practicing it. So during your chanting, if you're practicing learning not to react, learning to accept and let go, you're good for 1 hour. You step out in the real world and you don't practice acceptance. You don't practice letting go. You don't practice the art of forgiveness. Your 1 hour was useless for you. Don't make spirituality a fad. Spirituality is beautiful if you practice it. So there are so many people who only talk, but they never do. Meditating for 1 hour is useless if you don't allow that calm that you get during meditation to flow into your day. You flow through your day. People are saying crap to you, whatever, but your mind is solid. You don't get pulled in different directions. You don't become a puppet to society. You don't become a puppet to social media because you're grounded. What connected you in the morning in that 15 minutes of meditation, you've carried out in your day. So spirituality is not complicated. It is misused like everything else. Nutrition is misused. Amla, superfood, vitamin C, 10,000 times more than whatever. Everyone's eating amla. Are you getting better? No, you don't need more vitamin C. You need vitamin C. You don't need more vitamin C. You need more dynamic change in your overall nutrition, your exercise, and everything else. So I think it comes down to simplicity. Today, we have hundreds of thousands of patients in remission around the world. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you, oh yeah, we put them on our diet. They heal with the most simple things. They took chemo. They took radiation. They made mindset changes. They let go of emotional baggage. They learned to forgive. They learned to get out of toxic relationships. They learned to start moving more. They learned to start spending time in nature. They learned to find their life purpose, so they were more connected with themselves. That is what has worked for most of our patients. I'm yet to see a magic chemo drug. I'm yet to see a magic diet plan. It doesn't exist. It is you. Everything that you're looking for is within you. And yes, some people will die no matter what. There is something called destiny, and we have no control over that. But at the same time, we don't allow destiny to control our day-to-day decisions because we don't know what destiny has planned for us. None of us know that. None of us know that at all. So we don't look at destiny. We look at hope. We look at hope all around us. Every time you feel negative about your disease, every time you feel like you're failing in life, look around the world. Is everyone failing? Is everyone dying? Is everyone getting sicker and sicker? No, that's your hope. That's your hope. Don't look for hope in one person. Look for hope everywhere. Like Albert Einstein says, and I live by this. We can live life in two ways. By living as though nothing is a miracle, and by living as though everything is a miracle. That's the way I see life. Everything's a miracle. Otherwise, we are taking life for granted. Everything. The way I'm talking to you right now, we have technology. It's not technology to me. It's a miracle that we can talk this way. It's a miracle that y'all are a forum. It's a miracle that we have nature around us. It's a miracle. Everything is a miracle. We learn from miracles. It's not airy-fairy. Every single thing is a miracle. And every medical professional out there will know this because they see it happening every single day. That's our hope. That's simplicity. That's what we look at. You have to understand stress is making you sicker and sicker. Negativity is making you sicker and sicker. Today, it is scientifically proven that the more stressed you are, the more inflammation you have in your body, the more estrogen you have in the body, the lesser testosterone you have in your body. It's proven. It's proven. It's non-debatable. But now all of us say, we all have stress. Yes, we do. My question is, what are you doing about it? Are you accepting it? Are you a victim? If you're a victim, what are the results victims get? What are the results you get as a victim? Don't choose a spot of being a victim. We may feel like victims many times in life, but it is our responsibility to put that space of being a victim into action. There is always action, always action. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you to meditate more. I am going to tell you meditation is beautiful. It's important. Do it, even if it's 5 minutes. Connect with you. Know who you are, the real you. Work with your anger. Work with your irritability. Work with your envy. Work with your lust. These are things. Don't be ashamed of them. All of them have them. I have them. All of us have them. Accept it. When you accept it, you can tame it. Every human being in this world is born with the 7 deadly sins. Whether you're a spiritual leader, whether you're the Pope, whether you're a doctor, nutritionist, whoever you are, we all have the 7 deadly sins in us. Don't forget that. So don't try to confuse your lives by thinking all the time and trying to be too good and fooling your own self. Know that. Know that you have all the 7 deadly sins in you. Accept it, but be a better person because you've accepted it. So really, emotional health, some people, like I can't explain the pain of someone who's abused as a child or someone who's raped. I don't know. I can't help you with that. But for all the other emotional baggage that we carry in life, family problems, spousal problems, betrayals, cheating, all of that stuff, it is workable. There is pain. Go through the pain. Okay? The pain of suffering is worse sometimes than the suffering. It's okay. It's okay. Face the pain. It's okay. Pain is real in everyone's life. If you think there's anyone in this world who doesn't go through pain and suffering, you're mistaken. All the happy faces you see on social media and the news, what do you think? Those people don't have pain? Every human being has pain in life. It's a part of life. Accept it. Go through the process. Embrace it. You come out stronger. But the more you push it down within you, the more it eats inside of you like rust. Your immune system is down. Your inflammation is down. So what are my tips for emotional wellness? Learn to accept truthfully. Learn to forgive. Not because the other person is one, because your soul deserves peace, because you deserve a better life. You deserve to heal. Learn the power of letting go. Learn to flow with life. Take away from spirituality. Take away from everything, but practice it. These are the 4 fundamentals. And then you have your beautiful doctors on the side who are constantly researching the best treatments for you and all of those things. You have a team and you have power around you. You are the person. The healing is only going to come from within you. Like they say, the doctors can dress the wounds, but your body heals it. Never ever forget that. As a nutritionist, we can give you food. We can teach you lifestyle. We can't heal you. No one can heal you. Only your body has the power to heal you. So put all of your energy in your own body. You wake up in the morning hating your body. You wake up in the morning all the time complaining about how you look, fat on your side. You're rejecting your own energy. You're rejecting your own body. Why is your body going to heal you? It's like conflict. It's like what you resist persists. Understand that. Our energies are directed. There's energy in chemotherapy. There's energy in radiation. There's energy in food. There's energy in words. There's energy in the air that you breathe. Energy is energy. There's no good or bad energy. You make it good. You make it bad with your thought process and the way you speak. So before we open it up for question and answers, let me just explain once again. That is how simple it is. That is how simple it is. This is what we are doing with our patients around the world. When there are complications, we treat it with the right protocol. But this is the fundamental of what we do with every single patient around the world. We try to get the fundamentals of the body right, manage the side effects of the treatment they're taking, and then sit back and watch the body do its magic. If you believe in your body's magic, you are going to get better and you are going to heal, because it is only your body that's going to heal you. So please keep it simple. All these complicated things that you have in your mind, make an informed decision. I told you what you need. If you want superfoods, have it. I'm not against it, but don't take a superfood thinking it's going to take your cancer away. Don't do that. It doesn't exist. Use these 4 verticals. Go home today, reflect, write down these verticals. Where are you lacking? Okay, where you're lacking, put in some action. If you're doing it, great. All of us have the ability to grow in all of these 4 verticals a little bit every day. All of us. We have to constantly grow. You know why? Because your body is constantly growing. You can't stop growing and expect your body to do what it has to. We are constantly evolving. You have to make change. all the time. Remember, you want different results, you have to do different things revolved around these 4 verticals and everything else that comes into your life path. It's open for question and answer space.
Thank you, Luke, for the amazing, insightful talk. The 4 pillars of good health do wonders both for our physical as well as emotional well-being. And the more we balance the 4 pillars within our lives, the better chances of feeling good in the long run. Now we're going to commence the question and answer session. Dr. Bhavna Sirohi is a senior consultant at Max and has worked in UK for many years. I request her to ask the first question to Luke Coutinho.
Thank you, Dipali. Luke, we really enjoyed your talk. I'm now based in Chennai at Apollo. So basically, my questions are related to various components in diet, which a lot of patients have sent in. The first thing is the soya, the role of soya, brown bread, coffee, which oil to use. I'm asking you a lot of things. And because we had another support group meeting where one of the dietitians said that anything which sets, like coconut oil or ghee, is actually saturated, so it's not good for you. So I mean, we'd love to hear what you think about that. And wine as well, with the sugar that you talked about.
All right. So I have mixed reviews on soya because the research is not 100%. It works as a phytoestrogen. At the same time, if it is genetically modified, it's one of the biggest reasons why the US went through heavy breast cancer, ER positive, about 10 to 15 years ago, because of the genetically modified soy crops. So unless you know your source, it's a very mixed decision. I would keep it out of all breast cancers 100%, and I would keep it out of prostate cancers, only because I'm not sure how it works. There are some people who have it and some people who don't. We don't know how it really works as a phytoestrogen, so we prefer not to work with it. And there are several other foods that have protein like soy. So we don't really recommend soy. That's my reasoning. When it comes to saturated fat, my point to everyone out there is ask more questions. We need saturated fat in our body. Every cell requires saturated fat. If saturated fat was not required in our body, we wouldn't have the receptors for it. Saturated fat like coconut oil and pure ghee is excellent for your gut. It is excellent for your heart. You overdo it, yes, your triglycerides are going to go up. What has destroyed our country and human health is refined oils. So the questions being asked should be refined oils. You cannot have refined oils. You can have your mustard oils, you can have everything if it's cold pressed or wood churned, which is what traditional India did. When people talk and demonize saturated fat, please understand it comes from the lobbies. When they wanted to introduce canola oil, olive oil, and all of that stuff, they had to demonize the 1 and 2 fat mediums that literally ruled our country for years and years, pure ghee and coconut oil, when disease was literally unheard of. So please always ask the right questions. When someone says, please don't do saturated, why? Why do we have the receptors for saturated fat in our body? Saturated fat is one of the only fats that your brain can use as a source of fatty energy. So yes, you can have pure coconut oil, quality again, and you can have pure ghee, quality again matters. You overdo it, you pay for it with consequences, but it is a great medium for your cooking. Coconut oil today is being used by pharmaceuticals and even companies that make milk formula because of the caprylic acid. Caprylic acid and lauric acid found in coconut oil is linked equivalently to the components of mother's milk, breast milk. Everything to do with lower inflammation and high immunity. So when these companies are using it to put it into foods to feed us, okay, we shouldn't be listening to advice like that. Enjoy coconut oil, enjoy pure ghee, enjoy your oils that are not refined because of inflammation, but which are 100% cold pressed. When it comes to coffee, absolutely. If you're constantly getting acidic, don't do coffee. Black coffee is great for you. 1, 2 cups, pure coffee, not your rubbish instant coffee, which is highly processed. You're going to brew it, not an issue. You're going to spoil it if you're going to add sugar, milk, creamers, flavors, all of that stuff. So 1 to 2 cups of coffee, if it suits you, no issue at all. Never do it on an empty stomach.
And wine? Any amount of alcohol is bad, I feel.
I'll be honest with you. A lot of our doctors also tell patients, go ahead, have a glass once or twice. It's not going to kill you. And I agree with that. The problem is, okay, most people are not honest that 1 or 2 glasses becomes a bottle. And now that's going to compromise your liver. That's going to break down to excessive sugar in your body. You need to understand you're in a process of healing. I would want you to go through the next 3 to 4 months really coming out of this well so you can get back to a normal life and enjoy your wine and everything else. You know, your liver is compromised when you're going through chemo. Your liver is trying to flush out excess toxins. Don't give it more work of breaking down wine. If it's really going to calm you down, enjoy 1 or 2 glasses here and there. But most people are never honest when it comes to their consumption of wine, which is why sometimes we feel, depending on how they are, it's an informed decision. But I wouldn't suggest it unless you really, truly want it. I would treat the body the right way for a period of time and promise you that get back to a lifetime where you can have your wine on your weekends, enjoy a glass a day. I don't have a problem with that.
Great, thank you.
The next question will be asked by Dr. Sangeeta Taneja, who's a senior radiologist at Indraprastha Apollo, Delhi. Trained in USA, she's an integral part of support group meetings. No is a word that doesn't exist in her dictionary. Dr. Taneja, over to you.
Mr. Dipali, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Luke. Thank you so much for joining us once again. And as always, your lecture has been extremely helpful for all of us.
Thank you.
But there are some questions that have been placed by the audience and by me, of course. So the question would be regarding the A2 milk. You said that you should be taking A2 milk. How do you compare buffalo milk with an A2 milk? Do you recommend the, if anybody is not having access to A2 milk, they can go ahead with a low-fat buffalo milk or not? The second question
No, they should
is,
go with full-fat buffalo milk. Go with full fat. Do not do low fat. Go with full fat. See, these are the good fats that your body requires. These are the good fats that your body requires. So go with full fat buffalo milk, but know your source. It should not be adulterated. So if you can get it directly from, where the cows are, you have a good source, there is no problem with buffalo milk if you don't get A2 milk. That's fine.
And your talk today has been concentrating only on the cancer patients. Can I extend this all what you talk for the cancer patients to the normal people as well? Like
absolutely.
No sugar, no, yeah.
Everyone, because you know what? Every lifestyle disease is also categorized as an inflammatory disease today. So what I spoke about, I emphasized on cancer is the same thing we would tell everyone else who has other lifestyle diseases as well.
So you mean to say no sugar, no white sugar for everybody?
See, when I say no, for a cancer, absolutely no. For everyone. I just had a cup of chai with sugar before this. And that's it. That's my sugar in a day. It's not going to cause a problem. Enjoy it in moderation. People are over-consuming it. They have sugar in their chai, then they'll have biscuits, then they'll have a pastry, then they'll have a dessert. That's too much. So if you know your limits, little sugar in your chai is not going to create a problem at all. The overconsumption is going to give you a result of a disease. So it's not extreme. Use it the right way. But if you have cancer, I hold my stand on absolutely no white sugar at all.
And what about a gluten-free diet for cancer patients as well as for normal patients? Even if they do not have symptoms, even if their blood tests don't show a gluten sensitivity, is it wise to go ahead with a gluten-free diet? Because some people, they really say that since we've been gluten-free, we have been treated of our blood sugar, we have been, hypertension, and we've lost weight and things like that. So is it advisable for people to go ahead with gluten-free diet?
Not at all. Not necessary. If you're not celiac, you're not intolerant, you enjoy your wheat. It's not an issue at all. Only the people who bloat up constantly, get acidity, constipation, or they're diagnosed with celiac obviously have to be off gluten. But everyone else can enjoy gluten without a problem if it's not hurting you, if it's not troubling you. There's no issue. Sometimes when we have certain cancer patients who are reacting to chemotherapy really badly with a lot of gut issues, we stop gluten for a week or two because it is inflammatory and we're trying to reduce overall inflammation. But the moment they're way better, we put them back on gluten without an issue at all.
And a word about intermittent fasting. Should cancer patients, of course not during the treatment, but after they have been treated of cancer or after they have completed, should they be going ahead with intermittent fasting? Because there is a lot of thing that is going about intermittent fasting these days.
Like I said, everyone's unique. If it suits them, they do it. If it doesn't suit them, they don't do it. It's as simple as that. It's therapeutic if it's done the right way and if it suits you. I know a lot of people who cannot fast. Their blood sugar levels fall, their blood pressure falls. It's not for them. So we should not make it a fad. We should not think it's this tool which is going to give me an edge. If it's really used the right way, it can reduce inflammation incredibly. It is great for your genetic expression and so many things. So everyone has to make an informed decision. I can't make a statement that intermittent fasting is the best for people with cancer. It may for many people with cancer and it may not for some people. So once you finish your treatments, you can experiment with 12 hours, 13, 14, you feel great, passing your stools, no acidity. Great, it suits you. Make it a lifestyle.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Mrs. Anjali Sapra dons many feathers in her hat, and she'll be asking the next question. She's a professional artist, avid gardener, adventurous traveler, off-road car rallyist, eclectic cook and baker, and a volunteer worker. In fact, she has been an integral part of the forum. Mrs. Sapra, I request you to ask the next question, please.
Hi, Luke. Thank you so much for such an illuminating talk. My question is about sleep. You know, a lot of people, you know, sleep is a big challenge for people who have emotional issues, who are struggling with life-threatening diseases and have, you know, mental stress. So how do you suggest that we challenge that and how do we address this?
Exactly the same way I spoke about in my talk. We have to try to get into bed at the same time, put off screens, meditate. Okay, because it's a vicious cycle. Because you're emotionally stressed, the mind can't relax and you can't fall asleep. So we have to address the root cause of the emotions. We have to face them. We have to learn to accept them. We have to meditate. We have to do our breathing exercises. Journaling. Imagine when you're journaling, the power of journaling. You're emptying all your fears on that piece of paper. It's like lifting a heavy weight off your heart. And because you do that, your mind calms down and you're possibly able to sleep better. So nothing changes. The same sleep hygiene factors that I spoke about are the same things that we have to practice every day. It's not always easy, but the more we keep practicing it, the better we get at it. It's not impossible either.
So Luke, now this question is specifically for cancer patients and survivors. You know, one of the side effects of the conventional therapies is lack of sleep. Steroids do not let you sleep. I've been a cancer survivor twice over. And, you know, I can safely say I don't think I have slept properly for 5 years. It's severe anxiety because you have a life-threatening disease. You don't know whether you're going to make it. It's the side effects of the treatments that you have. So, you know, it's really tough with the medication. How do you just keep going? I was on you know, on sleeping pills for about 4 to 5 years.
If you have to take sleeping pills to help you sleep better, I'm not against that. But again, from what you're telling me right now, you are in remission, but you still have the fear of whether it's coming. And that's what I mean by, again, our emotional health. Somewhere in our mind, we have to decide, okay, that you are going to be fine. There is no point in expecting the worst in life. We're getting nothing out of it. That's why I said the day you decide, the day people decide that, okay, I've accepted this, I've gone through this, now I am on the path of healing. Like Sister Shivani spoke the last time, your affirmations, that's where affirmations come in. The more you affirm, the more your mind decides according to the affirmations you're making. But of course, even 10 years later, if you're still thinking, is this going to happen again? It's life-threatening. Your mindset right now, it is life-threatening. But that's a wrong mindset because you've survived it. It's not life-threatening. If it was life-threatening, it would have taken away your life. So somewhere we have to work with our mindsets. You have to change that mindset right now that this is not life-threatening. If I survived it, it threatened my life, but I came out of it. So you see, the work we have to do emotionally is great. We have to sit down, visit the mindsets that we've made, reprogram those mindsets. Like Sister Shivani says, affirmations. The only way to reprogram a mindset is an affirmation. So let's say tomorrow you get a thought that, oh no, I have a fear. What if I get this again? That's fine. It's a real thought. It's come. But immediately you need to convert it into, but I have survived it before. My body healed me. I eat well. I have the best doctors. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to live a long life. So you've converted a negative fear into a positive neural circuit, which now becomes your new neural circuit. And the more you keep practicing it, the stronger it becomes an impression, as strong as the negative impression you have right now. So no matter what, emotional work that we do is constant for all of us. For all of us. And the more we keep doing that, the better we are. But we have to change that mindset because you're still living with that mindset, looking at the disease with a very negative front. And you may be right. I'm not taking away from that. But now to change your feeling, you got to change the mindset.
Thanks, Luke. So now purely from the perspective of a patient undergoing chemotherapy, you know, you really can't sleep without sleeping tablets, especially in the first 2 days after chemo, because the steroids just keep you awake. So is it okay for them to take sleeping tablets in that case?
If the doctor prescribes it, absolutely yes, because your doctors would want you to come with more energy to go through your chemotherapy. So taking the assistance of a sleeping drug in the right way. Sleeping drugs are wrong when it's misused. The patients self-medicate. They don't want to make an effort to sleep well. They don't want to even try to do the right things. That's when it's misused. But when it's given to you as a crutch to get you through a period, of course, it's absolutely okay. It must be prescribed to you and your doctor must wean you off at the right time. A lot of people choose not to wean off because they don't want to do that. I know loads of patients, they blame it on the drugs. But you got to look at them. They're sitting with their iPads in bed post-chemo. looking at videos, reading up stuff, putting more stuff in their mind, watching the news. You can't just blame the steroid. You have to also blame what they're doing. So it's always a fine line between two things that work. There's no issue with the drug as long as it's prescribed and your doctors are in the loop.
Thank you, Luke. Thank you so much.
Okay. I think I need to end because I have a hard stop right now.
We have one more question.
Okay, please.
Dipali?
Yeah, please, if you can finish.
Dipali.
Yes, I'm right here. Shruti Sharma is going to be asking the last question. She's a finance professional and social worker.
Sure.
Who was diagnosed with breast cancer herself when she was just 31 years of age. It have proved to be a turning point in her life. Stop the chase is a lesson she learned, and live each day to the fullest has been a mantra she swears by, and she wants to ask you the last question.
Sure.
Hi, good morning, Luke. So it was a wonderful section. Thank you for that. It was amazing actually to hear you. My question is, as Dipali just mentioned, so it's been a long time now, about nine years that I've been out of this, and I've changed my attitude completely, as you've been mentioning in your talk also, and in a couple of question answers also that you just said, that a healthy mind is what leads to a healthy body. So it's important to keep your mind healthy and ensure that you're thinking all the negative emotions are out. And the negative emotions mean the stress, the depression, the guilt, the general irritation which comes in. When one starts living a normal life, unfortunately, these emotions do come off and on, So though, as I mentioned, that I have kind of changed my lifestyle completely. I love my life. I live in the day. But there are those days when you have some nagging point which is there, which like kind of pushes you to the guilt. For me, it's most of the times related to my daughter, actually. But being fairly new as a mom. But there are a whole lot of guilt which keep coming in, or a depression, or some stress which could be from office, or even a little thing. It's not very long term, but it's there. So how do you ensure that your mind is 24/7 in that positive state, and there's nothing which is kind of blocking?
Okay, great. So number one, don't even try. You go through an entire lifetime trying to maintain your mind in a positive state. It's not possible. Okay, it is absolutely not possible. There will be negatives. There will be these feelings. Short term is not a problem. The problem is when it's chronic. So what you're going through is not an issue at all. It is impossible for anyone to be positive right through. Impossible. Now, when you have a negative thought, when there's a guilt, okay, my point is that becomes bad when we wallow in it, when it pulls us down and spirals us more into fear and anxiety. My tip to you is, what can you learn from that guilt? Okay, I'm not using you as an example. I'm going to use a case that I consulted with 2 days ago. A mother with immense guilt for her child. So I broke it down. I said, what are you feeling guilty about? She's saying, oh, my kid and this. And I said, what about your kid? I said, what is this guilt trying to teach you? You know what she said? It's actually trying to teach me that I need to spend more time with my kid. That's it. She learned a lesson from guilt. Now it's no longer guilt. If she doesn't learn the lesson, it will continue as guilt. If she's learned the lesson, it will no longer be guilt. So sometimes through the little stress that we go through, always look for a lesson. If we take that lesson, we can convert that lesson into action. When we convert it into action, it is no longer a negative emotion that harms us. It's the negative emotions that we allow to grow within us, spiral within us, that causes all of the disease I'm talking about. So it is impossible to be positive throughout the day. There are always going to be ups and downs in life, difficulties and good times, sadness and happiness, yin and yang. It's going to be there for everyone. The point is, what are you going to do in each of these stages is what we have to do. Learn from everyone going through stress has something to learn from it. If you don't learn from it, the stress only becomes more and more because you've not taken any action to change it. So that is extremely important for us. Please don't think that I have a little stress today, I'm going to get cancer, I'm going to get a disease. No, it doesn't work that way. When you look at the people who have got it due to an emotional cause, they've gone through deeply rooted emotions for years on years, month on month, not the day-to-day stress. So don't worry about that. Okay, learn from that, move on. Learn from that, move on. That stress is not going to cause a problem.
What happens if one is just not able to understand what is the root cause, or what is that learning factor from that particular emotion?
I don't know. All of us learn when our minds are silent, when our hearts are open, and we are willing to look for a picture. Take the worst incident, there's a lesson to learn always in life. There's always a silver lining. We have to look for it. But we look in negativity as something bad. We've already termed it as something horrible, resisting it. It keeps persisting. Every time something bad happens, we're not welcoming it. Try to look at it. It's happened. There's nothing you can do. You can't change it. It's not serving you any purpose to wallow in it. Look, what is it that there is to learn from it? What is it there? There's always something to learn. Someone who's gotten sick, There's something to learn from their previous lifestyle or what they did or the kind of reject they've put their bodies through. We have to try. Like I said, it's not going to happen overnight. That's where your meditation practice happens. What are you doing in your meditation? Not you, people. They're just looking and trying to get peace. They're trying to stop their thoughts. That's not meditation. You're not even close to it. Meditation is when you're calm, you look within. Why are these things hurting me? Why am I reacting this way? Why is this happening all the time to me? And you'll find an ugly truth. Ego coming up, your own pride coming up, your own behaviors are causing the biggest stress in your life. I'm not talking about you. I'm giving you an example. That is why most people don't like to go beyond meditation, because it teaches them the bitter part of themselves, which they don't want to face, because no one wants to find faults with themselves. Like I said, everything is within us. Our solutions, our answers, in most cases. And then there's destiny and some things which can't be answered. But I'm talking about more in general about all of these things. Yeah. I'm really sorry, everyone, but I have to log off. I have patients right now, so I'm going to have to say bye to everyone.
Excellent session that was. Can you hear me, see me?
Yes, sir. Yes, we can.
Okay, that was an excellent session. And our first big thank you goes out to Luke Coutinho for giving us his time and sharing his knowledge so generously for the second time. Please don't be surprised, Luke, if we trouble you again one of these days. We must also thank all of you who joined us to listen to Luke on a precious Sunday morning. Our registrations had crossed 500 almost at last count. Our sincere thanks to the chairpersons of the Forum for Breast Cancer Protection, Dr. Mrs. Ramesh Serene and Dr. Colonel S.C. Pant, for being our guiding lights and role models. Various members of the forum worked quietly behind the scenes, and our special thanks to Karuna Sharma and Sapna Singh for cracking the Zoom code. They are now experts at running the application seamlessly. Many thanks to our members, Dipali Bhasin, Vanita Kapoor, Shruti Sharma, Neeti Likha Chabra, Bhavna Sirohi, Bhavna Avasthi, Anjali Sapra, and Dr. Serene's able right-hand woman, Janani Ganeshan. We hope to see you all again soon.
Thank you so much for being a part of the session today. And thank you so much, Luke, for being here for the session. For all the others who are here, we are having another session on the 11th of October. The link is going to be given below, or you can just visit our Facebook page, the Forum for Breast Cancer Protection.